the Eternal right around the corner, I thought it'd be a good time to finally get around completing Ultra Nightmare, and I did. That run was an experience and the details are going to be a whole nother video. But while playing in ISOR mode, because my old fart of a PC won't run OBS and Doom comfortably, something else came to my mind. Remember how disappointed people were with Doom 3? Maybe it was because the times were different and people are way more happy to see a good reboot now amid the bad ones. Or maybe it's because the tone of the third game was completely different from the original. But new Doom is a godsend for fans of the franchise. Let's get into it. Before the reboot, Doom was, for most people, a game they played when they were younger, a memory. But plenty of people kept playing the original. They were either playing with mods or they were purists that even hated mouse looks. Needless to say, the latter probably aren't very enthusiastic about the new entry. But the people who kept experimenting probably are, and for good reasons. This is still a projectile-based shooter with great mobility that discards a lot of the modern shooter staples. There's no reload and all damage is either projectile-based or melee. Which is actually different from the original and is sort of its can weapon wielding enemies, but since everyone and their grandmas like to focus on how much they hated the zombie minigun, I'll say it's an improvement. There's no doubt it's old school, except in two departments. The first one is arenas. In the first one, demons don't spawn. The worst they can do is teleport around thanks to clever tricks or hide behind closed doors. The reboot has you locked in an arena while it keeps spawning enemies in waves, probably because of graphics limitations. This creates an interesting dynamics where you need to keep moving and you can't retreat if things get hairy, which is different from the original but still good I feel. If you could choose encounters by funneling all demons through a door, this game would be way worse. The second main difference is the health system, and this time I consider this a change for the best. Let me give you a brief history lesson. In all games, level had to be balanced in order to give you exactly what you needed to progress. And if you fucked up, then you had to load a save. It was a fragile system where players of various skills could easily get too much or too little. Then regenerating health came and health management was discarded to focus on the action. But some games retained the health system with some improvements. They either went for a hybrid system or a smart one. Man, Halo's more strange than I remembered. In Half-Life 2, beside the natural pickup, there are supply crates that drop what the player need. Beside the one that reward the player for exploring, they function this way. You clear an area from enemies, reach a supply crate and it would drop supplies according to your needs. Doom adopted this system but decided to cut the middleman by directly dropping resources from enemies. The amount you get is very low unless you're out of ammo or about to die, but they also added glory kills. By executing enemies, you'll gain more resources. In combat, you can gain life by quickly killing an enemies, and while exploring the possessed act as a more interesting version of health pickups. Speaking of, the enemy have been given a great overhaul. In the first Doom, the imp just threw fireballs and the role overlapped a lot with the zombie soldiers. In the new one, the imp is an acrobat. It runs around, it hurls fireballs from cover, it climbs a wall to get a better view. I won't go in detail for each enemy, but suffices to say that the imp is now way more dynamic and a threat on par with the big guys when there's a lot of them. Plus, they complement the slower enemies perfectly. This theme is evident in every returning demon. They've all been overhauled, giving them more utility and a variety of attacks. A similar treatment has been given to weapons. Most weapons now have two alt-fire modes that ramp up their utility tenfold. The shotgun is now also a grenade launcher, the plasma gun can stun enemies, and the pistol now has a specific role in setting up glory kills or quickly getting rid of possessed. The only weapon that they didn't change is probably the most useless one, the super shotgun. It's a sacrilege, but it really has very little use. It's too close range and the regular shotgun is a better way to use shells. I would have given it slugs or taken a page out of Guncaster. The biggest winners of the reboot are the BFG and the Chainsaw. They both use their own very limited ammo pool, but their lethality has been more than doubled. The Chainsaw went from melee range stun locker to a mean twist to kill any demon while making them drop extra ammo in the process. The BFG now is guaranteed to clear rooms in a single shot. Nothing but bosses can resist it. The Cyber Demon and the Spider Mastermind are proper bosses like in the first Doom levels. I wonder if they'll become recurring enemies in Eternal. The two have been given more moves and attack that requires you to master the movement system to avoid. Great stuff. Now we need to talk about the exploration. The first two Doom games had levels full of secrets, although a lot of them were just fake walls. The new one has collectible hidden in less obvious paths.
I let the beat drop like old people with polio.
And also has hidden old level just for nostalgia's sake, I guess. What I can't get behind is the game arbitrarily locking you out of previous part of the level as you go forward. It's annoying to realize you missed something and are unable to go back. Why that's annoying? Because the game now has a progression system that rewards you for finding secrets and completing challenges. Stat increments, suit upgrades, runes and the aforementioned weapons alt-fire modes are to be found around the levels. Not all of them are hidden, and you don't need every single weapon at great point to max out your arsenal, but the fact that you have to restart the level from scratch if you miss something is grating. The only one of these systems that doesn't really work that well is the runes. They're great, most of them, but you'll select your favorite and stick with them all game. There's very little reason to swap them out except experimentation, but why bother? I prefer them being a flat upgrade instead of having to select only 3, and maybe tone down their power because they can get brutal. Lastly, the story and world building. A wise man once said that story in video games is like a story in a certain kind of movie.
Nobody cared who I was till I put on the mask.
That might have been the case for when the story could only have been told through wall of text or game manuals, but that's not true anymore. Doom has a hybrid view on the matter, where the world is rich and developed, from the idea of needing to exploit the demon's energy in order to survive to hell having an ecosystem, but Doom Guy doesn't care.
We're only temporarily disabling the tower. You need to remove each lens individually. Carefully release the hinges.
This is mostly used for humor, but the player can read logs to learn about the world if he cares, without anything being forced on him. I just wish they didn't keep you in a room to spout exposition, but it looks like something the characters will do, so I'm not writing it off as needless. One particular thing I like is how USC soldiers are never portrayed being cowardly, and I feel like the Leaf Guards, if they hadn't been insta-gifted by Olivia when their time to shine came, would have been a real thorn in their side. Okay, now lightning rounds for things I missed. Power-ups are still here and they're more brutal than ever. You now have access to 3 consumables which replenish with time. They're a hologram, a frag and a grenade that sucks the enemy's life. Keys make a return in various forms, from keycards and skulls to forearms and torsos. Infighting is still a thing, but it's scripted and I wasn't able to make it happen during combat. And the multiplayer's not great. A different team worked on it and you can tell. There are unlocks and loadouts and it's not at all reminiscent of old Doom. Many people cited the 2 weapons limit as its biggest fault, but I do not agree. The issue here is that there's a lot of clutter. The visual noise is nauseating. Secure zone, level up! That and the sound mixing of all things. Enemy guns are extremely quiet and more often than not you won't hear them at all. It's not just me either, you can see players being completely oblivious to where I'm shooting from. This happened multiple times. I don't care enough to investigate this and I'm willing to bet you don't care either. However, the combat, thanks to the weapons, is still great fun, albeit chaotic with all the demons and the power-ups and the weapons spawn and all. Lastly, the game's not as moddable as it could be. The levels of modding the first game has is still unparalleled. Instead, they have the snap map, which is probably trying to emulate what Valve did with Portal, but the result isn't so great. That's the greatest fault of the game, one that I hope they will fix in the upcoming title, but I wouldn't get my hopes up. I am positive, however, that Eternal will be a great improvement on the 2016 reboot, and I'm definitely getting it as soon as it comes out. And it goes without saying that I'm recommending the former. It's a great game, a worthy reincarnation of the franchise, and it has no glaring issues. The only bug I found were minor graphical ones, like Olivia performing interpretative dances in front of Doom Guy. Okay, that was Doom. Join me next time for a more detailed explanation of guns, enemies, tactics and levels of the Outer Nightmare run. It's gonna be top stuff. See ya.